Post game live now after Kentucky's loss to Auburn for the first time on their home court since 1988. Auburn's a winner. Let me be the first to say to you, Taylor, Auburn is the SEC champions this year. Co-champions, at least right now, or share of it, I should say. Could be more later today, could be more later in the week. But right now, a little sliver of that SEC championship belongs to those in the orange and blue, which you happen to be wearing right now.
I am kind of speechless. I mean, sucks that we couldn't watch the last 10, 11 minutes of the game. The Auburn Sports Network turned their courtside camera on so you could see somewhat from there. But what a game. Miles freaking Kelly. I mean, what a performance.
Oh, I mean, when you're banking them in, two of them early on off the glass, and they're going in. You know it's going to be his day. He ends up with 30, 9 of 14 from three in that one. But it was really all the guards because Janai Broom was held into a little bit of a cone scoring wise. He only scores 9 today with 6 rebounds. But early on, it was the guards that set the tone, and really that's Kentucky's game. Auburn was able to sort of play on the perimeter and beat Kentucky at their own game, playing with pace and scoring from the 3-point line.
Yeah, that's what impressed me going into halftime was the fact that Jedi Broom, the best player on the team, arguably the best player in college basketball, had 1 point, and you have a 15-point lead. Miles, Tahaad, and Chad accounted for 44 of Auburn's 49 first half points. And it's one of the things that makes this team elite, the depth. You never know who's going to go off. You never know who's going to have a big night. And when, your big guy, when the star of your team doesn't have a great game, the wheels don't fall off.
Yeah, I will tell you what. One of my friend Damien, who I believe is a North Carolina fan, he texts me and he goes, "This is at 2:25 a few moments ago. Man, how good is Auburn? Three exclamation points." I said, best team in the country, easy. He wrote back, capital letters, easy. That's from a North Carolina fan. And I know you don't want to talk about a national championship or bust, but there is a separation between this Auburn team and everybody else, at least the way they're playing right now. The 27th win of the year that ties the most in the regular season in Auburn history, 15 SEC wins now, which ties the most SEC wins with the 2021-2022 team for this Auburn team. So that's a little bit of history, but so too is the Rupp Arena thing. And I knew that's something you and Brown loved talking about earlier this week. So put that into context today. It was a wire-to-wire game. Auburn led from the beginning off the Miles Kelly first three and never trailed in the game. So there was no drama in this, but the history is done. 1988, no more.
Yeah, and heading into this game, I thought if there was a team to end this 37-year losing streak to Kentucky in this building, this is the team that I would have confidence in doing it. They don't get rattled. They don't get scared. I don't really love to use that word, but they almost thrive in these type of environments. And it was either Bruce or Steven that said they kind of like being the villain. And when you think about the mentality of some of the guys on this roster, like Chad, that probably won't surprise you.
Yeah. No, and he plays it very well. You saw him talking to some of the youngsters who apparently have daddy's money sitting right there on the court at Rupp Arena for a big game against number one, who were jawing with him and gave him the thumbs down. And then he hits a three and chats him up as he runs back down the court. And I think, to me, Chad Baker-Mazara's best 2 games of the year have been his last 2 games. Tell me I'm wrong on that. His last 2 games, he's been elite defensively and he's found his shots and he's stayed emotionally, on an even plane. I'm going to say CBM's best 2 games of the season, in my opinion, at least in SEC play, I'll say, have been the last 2 games. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. And I think it also, in my opinion, when it comes to talking about something like that, it matters when it happens. It matters when you have these big games. And using today's game, for example, they needed others to step up because Janai wasn't as productive offensively as we've seen him be in the past. And I think that says something. That matters. And so yeah, I agree. I agree. They needed a guy to step up. Todd stepped up, Chad stepped up, Miles stepped up, and he has kept his composure, which as we inch closer to the NCAA tournament is a good thing considering, what's happened in the past.
AU Clay says it's obvious he's getting healthier. He still has the tape on his shoulder there, but he's getting healthier, so his offensive numbers go up. And I know the numbers didn't reflect it today for Janai, but the last two games, the one we saw in person and then watching him today, I do believe Janai is actually moving a little bit better as well. So healthier as you get near the end for some of your veterans. Denver Jones with a little ankle that took him out of this game. He was coming back to the court walking under his own power. I'm no doctor, but that seems like that's a good sign there, just playing it very close to the best. Let's get to some of your comments, and then Little T and I will give you some more. We'll be live after the Alabama game coming up a little bit later on as they were at Tennessee. A Tennessee win today, and Auburn's the outright SEC champions. And they've already, as I said, got a share of that today. UK was up 4-3 at one point. Is that true? Am I wrong on the wire
Yeah,
to wire?
they led for I think it was let me look at the box score. They led 4-3 at the 17-minute 16-second mark in the first half. They led for 19 seconds of the game.
Okay, I just wanted to say I was helping, some kids with the Exceptional Foundation, so I did miss the first media timeouts when I got in front of the TV. I was going off of Schulman at one point. He said wire to wire, technically not wire to wire. I apologize, but it was a dominant win for Auburn there. My bad on that one, Angela. Clay says, "How old were you in 1988, Taylor?" Come on, Clay. He says he was 10. We can so better question asked, well, how old was I in 1988? Taylor, we were debating the other day whether your parents were even married yet, and we decided they were not even married yet, right?
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, I mean 1988. How old's your older sister, Erin?
She is 2 years older than me, so she wasn't
Yeah,
born either.
yeah. And brother, how about the brother?
He
How old is your
wasn't
brother?
born either.
Yeah, so I mean, none of the corn kids were around in 1988. It's a long I mean, crap, I wasn't even in the business yet. I was in college when it happened last time. We were talking on the golf course yesterday about who was on that team for Auburn that won that game up there. AU Big Bob says belt to ass there on that one. No Denver Jones, and they still expanded the lead in that contest. They did. But it was the guards play. Any concern at you on Janai Broom's 9-6 here? A lot of people are reacting about National Player of the Year, and does that hurt him in that? I don't really judge it on a one game scale, in my opinion. But I'd love to hear what you think about that.
No, I mean, I don't know what the voters I mean, you're a voter, but I don't know what's gonna go through the mind of them in terms of how much this one game will impact. I'm not concerned about Janai at all. I think what I notice sometimes with him is if things aren't going his way
Right.
early, going his way as in his shots aren't falling early, I think he kind of starts pressing. And I think mentally, just continuing to play the way that you're successful playing will be important. But no, and I think that very it'll be very beneficial for the guys that did step up and did take over because of his lack of offense that down the stretch you can't rely on him night in and night out. So I'm not concerned about it at all, and I think it makes the win even more impressive that they were able to do it without the typical Janai Broom and without Denver Jones for the majority of the game.
Aaron says team game. This team is different. And that's, Billis goes back to this, Jay Billis on the broadcast several times, is they've got individual playmakers that even if the offense, this was his quote, so it's not, don't think that Jim's trying to act like he's a basketball savant here. So Jay Billis made a great point, I thought. Even when the offense on a trip down the floor doesn't get into sync, doesn't get into a groove, the other team doing a great job defensively, they've got individual players who can go one on one and create their shot and get a bucket out of there. And that is a strength for this team. And you just think about what you saw today. Okay, so maybe the offense isn't going great, and you got Miles Kelly who's going to take one 3 feet from behind the 3 point line and drain a 3 pointer. You got Chad Baker-Mazara who can do that and step back and hit a three. You have Denver when he's healthy. You have Pettiford who can do it. Obviously, when Janai is on his game, you can do it, and that is what makes this team so special. Is the individual playmakers great as a team and all that, but if it's broken down and you got to have one player to make a play, usually they've got four guys on the floor who can create the shot themselves and make a play.
Yeah, and I heard what you were talking about. I heard them talking about that on the broadcast. I think something that's so impressive about Tahaad, he can obviously shoot the three. He can hit contested shots, but Tahaad driving to the basket, some of the layups that he'll make over guys that are a good 7, 8 inches taller than him are so impressive. He's very shifty, he's quick, and I mean, he has been everything and more than I think Auburn fans expected, considering how young he is.
Yeah, and back to Miles hitting those great bank shots early on. Mark says he wants to switch banks because Mark's banks are open on Saturday. Good line, Mark. I like that a lot there. Comments rolling in. Keep those coming in. We appreciate you being with us on the basketball show. Taylor Corn, Jim Dunaway with you, reacting to the 94-78 Auburn win. They were at least a share of SEC champions, and that could change later today if Alabama's not able to survive Tennessee. And it also changes with Auburn's next win, so they don't have to wait for an Alabama loss. So the next game at Texas A&M, Auburn can clinch the outright championship, or a week from today against Alabama. So you don't, even if Alabama keeps winning until that final game, Auburn's got a share of it. But with one more win by Auburn or one more loss by Alabama, they are outright SEC champions. Before we get to more comments, I want to talk about turnovers. Kentucky had 18 of them, a lot in the first half. But if you're gonna put a team away, coming out of the locker room to start the second half, Auburn crunches down defensively, and Kentucky gets 6 turnovers before they even make a field goal in the second half, and that's where the game was put away right there.
I agree, and you talk about the middle eight a lot in football, and or Brown likes to talk about it, and I think that is something that they mentioned it on the broadcast. I think there were about 2.5 minutes left in the first half, and I'm sitting here thinking, just do not let them go on a run. Do not give Kentucky anything easy. No stupid fouls, because we had a lot or I don't know if I want to say a lot. We had Chad in foul trouble, Dylan in foul trouble, Todd in foul trouble come the end of the game. And the fact that they were able to extend their lead going into the half, and then like you said, Kentucky had 6 turnovers before they even attempted a shot
Yeah.
in the second half. So defense is incredible, and Auburn's offense has been great all season. I believe they are still ranked first in Ken Palm's offensive efficiency. And this is also something that they said on the broadcast. It's almost like how good they play defensively gets overlooked because of how electric their offense is. And I think the 6 turnovers within the first five
Oof.
minutes of the second half attest to that.
Yeah, no, it's was so impressive because, as I said, as Mark Pope was wired at the half, and you were able to hear him say, how quick we can turn this around. Let's go do it. And then you come out of the locker room and you do that massive turnover sequence before you even get a shot up. That will hurt you. NH3425 wants you to comment on Tahaad, who needed this kind of game. He's been in sort of an offensive slump lately. This could only help Tahaad, right?
Yeah, and if you watched our show from Friday, that is who I said I would be watching this game, because if you look at his stat splits between home and road games, and I have them, I'll read them real quick. It's crazy. I have called him primetime Pettiford because he shows up in big games. He plays his best when Auburn's playing the best competition. And games like this where all of the eyeballs until the broadcast shuts down are on them, he shows up. And at home, so his field goal percentage at home, he's shooting 37.4% from the field. On the road, he's shooting 47.4%. From three at home, he's shooting 31.6%. On the road, 44.8% from three. And he's averaging 8.5 points a game, 14.1 points a game on the road. Those numbers have not been updated after his stats this game, but I wasn't surprised by that. And that was almost what I expected from him, just because what we've seen him do on the road in these big games throughout the season. But I agree that he needed it. He's been in a little bit of a shooting slump, but Bruce has been very, very complimentary of the progress that the coaching staff has seen with him defensively, because that's something that he struggled with earlier this season, as well as still having an impact, a positive impact on Auburn's offense in terms of assists. He had his career high in assists in the Ole Miss game. He had 6. So he's still being productive. He's still having a positive impact, even though his shots weren't falling in the previous couple games. So this was definitely good for him.
Tahaad is the truth, says Hunter there. Aaron pointing out Kentucky's first bucket in the second half wasn't until maybe 12 minutes in. They did go 11 minutes from about the 7-minute mark of the first half into the second half without a made field goal. And that's another thing as we start to wind it down here so you guys can get to the tip and watch Alabama and Tennessee. With, again, a Tennessee win would be an Auburn outright SEC championship as they land back in Auburn tonight. But I wanted you to comment on the defense of this team, because Kentucky scores a lot of points. They're known mostly for their offense. Now, they're limited a little bit with some of their playmakers, and Oweh got into foul trouble, just mentally was spazzing out, making dumb foul after dumb foul, which hurt Oweh's point production today. But it was pointed out again by Billis throughout the broadcast. Um, the defense switching was confusing. Kentucky was elite today. They challenged every pass. There was nothing easy about that Kentucky offense all day long. They had to earn their 78 points. And truthfully, most of those came from the free throw line. If Auburn wasn't committing any fouls, Kentucky would have been held way, way, way low below their season average. That Auburn defense, as you said earlier, that may be the calling card of this thing by the time we get to San Antonio.
Yeah, and there's a stat, I'm pulling it up right now, that Brad Law, or not really a stat, but just an observation from Brad Law on Twitter during the game. And this was at 1:30, so I guess around the start of the second half, or at the end of the first half, I guess. This game lasted like 3 hours. But he said 46 of Kentucky's points are from the free throw line. They ended up scoring
78. Yeah.
Yeah, they had 28 of their 78 points came from the free throw line. They missed 10. So, yeah, defensively, I mean, Auburn, you've said this before, it's like Chad Baker-Mazara playing defense, you just wanna hit him because they are in your face, they're all over you. You
Hmm.
really, at times, can't do anything because they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I do think that this team they've been talked about a lot more in terms of how impressive they've been offensively, but their defense has shown up, not in this game, but in past games. Their defense has shown up when their shots aren't falling. Tonight or today, their shots were falling and their defense showed up. So that's a recipe for success.
All right. Steve says War Eagle to Dylan, probably my favorite player in the team. Seems like he just goes about his business the right way and loves the game. Fans in Auburn there.
And
Dougie jumps in. Do you know Kentucky has injuries when the tournament comes? Watch out for that team. I don't know how healthy they'll be when they get to the tournament, but Jackson Robinson in and out. Lamont's not 100%, but that team at times has struggled on the defensive end, and defense takes you deep into the tournament. We'll see if that happens for Kentucky. You were going to say something about Dylan or somebody else there. I cut you off. My bad.
no, you're fine. This is something that I just feel like we should mention, and I know the Alabama game is about to tip off. So this can be my final thought, is that Dylan Cardwell is now the all-time winningest player in Auburn basketball history. So
Yeah.
congrats to Dylan. And when Bruce was talking about the possibility of him breaking that record, it was Jaylin Williams who held it. He said, I don't know if it'll ever be broken because it's very uncommon now that you see a guy play this is Dylan's 5th year, so play 5 years at the same school. So congratulations, Dylan. And he may have just set a record that we will never watch or that we will never see get broken.
Yeah, he's a guy that has always played his role and has a bigger role on this team than he has in the past, and he stayed around and been a big part of Auburn's success. Dylan Cardwell, they're a really good guy. So 30 for Miles Kelly, 22 for CBM for Chad Baker, 21 for Pettiford. The guards set the tone, 94-78. Auburn beats Kentucky today. And now it's time to sit back. And if you're an Auburn fan, you're cheering for Tennessee to get that outright championship, or maybe you want to do it yourself at Texas A&M. We'll be back after the Alabama game to talk about Alabama and Tennessee, a battle of two top 6 teams. Number 6 Alabama, number 5 Tennessee. That's the basketball show post game of Auburn's first win at Rupp Arena since 19.